This panel will be, again, in a hybrid version. We will have one colleague on Zoom. So as we are only 3 of us, it's going to be a big, maybe, I'm sure the debate very intense and concrete, but as well we have some time also for the public to have maybe some questions and answers. So we have some time at the end to propose some comments to come in. I would like to start this panel that is, Raymond is already with us. Hi. So I would like to immediately start the panel that will be done in English and in Croatian. So we will start with you, Raymond, as you are, sorry, I need to introduce you first of all. Raymond van Ermen is the Executive Director of the European Partners for the Environment. And I'm very, very glad that you will be the first one to speak, so you can have this introduction about the ideas you have for, not only for the regions, but also for the European Union, and like, I think in a general way to how to deal with all the questions on sustainability in the future. So I received your contribution in advance, so I know, I think this will be a great beginning of this panel. So from my side, I would like to give you the floor, so you can start now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, all of you. I wish to draw your attention to a coming conversation which will take place in Prague in October on the French proposal for a European political community, which would be a new institution at European level, taking into account the new developments since the beginning of the Ukraine war. And I wish to do that in particular because it has tremendous importance for Western Balkan countries, as well as for the sustainability agenda. In the opinion of our organization, the proposed European political community should not be linked to membership or candidate membership to the European Union, which are parallel and independent processes, and therefore should not be seen as a waiting room. A waiting room for candidate countries? No. It should be a situation room to deal with 3 emergencies in terms of security and transformation, and a partnership builder, to which would correspond, at least in our view, 3 baskets, each with a dimension of international partnership. The first basket would deal with regenerate Europe. We need, as one of the outcomes of the present war, to design new approaches to deal with security and the transformation of supply chains. The second basket would relate to regenerate the planet. The transformation of our models for managing ecological emergencies and planetary boundaries, green energy, seas and oceans, is tremendous. The transformation is an indispensable part of security. The themes necessary for this transformation have been very well identified in the System Change Compacts implementing the Green Deal, which was co-signed by former Commissioner Janusz Potočnik and prefaced by the President of the Commission. And here, women would have a major role to play to bring a new vision of how to define the 10 elements of this System Change Compact. Namely, how do we define, what do you mean by prosperity, progress, judicious use of resources, conversions, competitiveness, responsible finance, public incentives. What does it mean, performance? What does leadership mean? And finally, how do you reshape governance? The third basket would relate to regenerate confidence. The European political community should have the mission of building a society of trust and just transition. In a world where, on the one hand, violence and corruption are causing enormous damages and undermining the wish to live together, and on the other hand, the social consequences of the ecological crisis are undermining resilience. To create such a society of trust and just transition, the community must have a governance scheme equipped with a game changer, because without game changer, nothing will happen. This is what will be discussed next October 6th in the framework of a UN ECE Environment for Europe Ministerial Conference, where we will have a side event making the link between the Aarhus Convention on Access to Information, Participation and Justice, and a blockchain system for UN Charter values and the Sustainable Development Goals. And this Nicosia event is part of a global initiative under the high patronage of His Excellency Mr. Csaba Kőrösi, President-elect of the 77th UN General Assembly, as you know, an Hungarian ambassador. And we are extremely pleased to have received his high patronage to bring together 100 plus networks and platforms to envisage a blockchain ecosystem and its situation room in support to the UN Charter values and the SDGs, with a very specific attention to finance. But I would like to come back to the main point of my presentation: why Western Balkan countries and citizens should advocate in favor of a European political community to be put in place still this year. Why is it in your interest? First, the European political community would include, if they so wish, the EU and its member states, all candidate states for EU membership, but as well, other potential members could be Norway, Great Britain, Turkey, Switzerland, and so on. And this is what will be debated in Prague in October. The European political community should be set up from this year, 2022, and should be informal. It would not put in place regulations. Its members would not vote. They would set up partnerships. But it's very important to understand that if you look for the time being of how the European Union is structured, partnership is a major element. And partnerships, from our standpoint, should be moved from the EU level to the level of this European political community, thanks to the fact that in the existing EU treaty, the European Union has what are called supporting competences, in which the EU can only support, coordinate, or complement the action of member countries, since the EU has no power in these fields to pass laws and may not interfere with member countries' ability to do so. What does it mean concretely? Well, it means that if those support competencies would be moved from the EU to the European political community, as from this year, it means that the governments of the Western Balkan countries and citizens could immediately be involved in existing partnerships related to the EU policies as fixed by the EU treaty dealing with support competencies, namely, and you will hear here, important fields of action in the fields of public health, industry, culture, tourism, education and training, youth and sport, civil protection, administrative cooperation, which includes the fight against corruption. So with this, we would have the opportunity to move very fast towards the development of a new era where a society of trust could be built. In order to involve citizens, and in particular movements like yours, it is proposed that on the 6th and 7th of May next year, 2023, be held an online pan-European multi-stakeholder conference called Regenerate Europe, with the participation of those European existing partnerships. This event, May next year, will celebrate the 75th anniversary of the 1948 Den Hague Conference, which was the first conference post-Second World War on Europe. And when this conference of Den Hague in 1948 were laid the foundations of the post-war World War II Europe came together under the chairmanship of Winston Churchill and fixed a certain number of institutional new settings, like, for example, the Council of Europe. Well, we think that time has come for the potential members of this European political community, including all Western Balkan countries, without any delay. The time has come for them to come together and fix what could be done right now in terms of partnerships. And the conclusions could be presented to the United Nations as a pledge of cooperation for a society of trust and just transition with the other parts of the world on the occasion of the UN Twin Summits of next year, September next year. There will be 2 UN summits, the Summit for the Future and the SDG Summit. And both are convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations. So, in conclusion, we, the Europeans, have the opportunity to use this window of opportunity, which goes with the nomination of Mr. Kéresi as President of the coming UN General Assembly, and the fact that we have also the UN Secretary General being a European. We have the elements to try, in this time where the world order is very much questioned, we have the opportunity to build the foundation of a new era for more peace and trust, to move towards the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And from this standpoint, I hope very much that your workshops are an opportunity to discuss the contribution of Western Balkans. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond, also for the positive notes at the end of your speech and some homework for us to discuss the Sustainable Development Goals and the reflection on the Western Balkans in the next 2 days here in KORČULA. We like to put an emphasis on the gender perspective on the SDGs, but as well we like to discuss the topic also in the more general way and implementation of the Sustainable General Goals and everything linked to sustainability on different levels. So I'm gonna start with Marta Sighetti Bonifer. She is my colleague as a board member at the C Network for Gender Issues, but as well a board member of the European Partners for the Environment. As long as I know Marta, she was also always very involved in the environmental issues. So I'm looking forward to hear your speech. Maybe just to make a little link to what we were discussing last year. We were discussing the sustainable development here in KORČULA. It was, I think, all the debate was a bit more negative, or let's say a bit. We were learning how much we still need to do, or where we were at the time, because we were discussing the Green Deal, the digitalization, and all the transformation linked to the social pillar and social policies. And for our political family, using a word that is truly in our values, in the value system, so is solidarity. Not only with the candidate countries and the countries that are already in the European Union, but between all the partners and like working all together as partners. So I would like to start here with you, maybe to give you the floor and to address the audience on this topic.
Thank you very much, Mojca, and thank you very much for the invitation, and looking forward to your discussions, our discussions, especially on this theme. And as I was listening to the first panel, I was thinking about how I became an environmental politician. And it was the Brundtland Report implementation in 1987, when then Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, a social democrat, convened a global group, including then the Hungarian Academy of Sciences president, Láng István, and to talk about the important issues for the future. And what was very interesting, everybody agreed. There was 1992, the Rio conference, and leading to the Rio conference, the Norwegian and the Dutch government convened a working group, is IUCN, on Charter on environmental rights, and I put in obligations. Because we tend to forget, we talk about rights, but we forget that we have a duty also as citizens to deliver. And this, following the Rio, became the roots of the Aarhus Convention. And the importance is public participation, access to information, and access to justice. If you think about it, these are the basic sentences of democracy. And the importance is that in Europe, we were able to use it, and we have already transformed it into other continents. And other continents also picked it up and are using this Aarhus Convention tools, methodologies. The reason I'm pointing out, because we tend to forget. It's very important to use it in the case of local communities, because if you don't inform, if you don't engage, if you don't put tools to have any kind of criticism, then things will not progress. So for me, the importance that were laid down in this document was leading us to where we are now. Where we are now is the Sustainable Development Goals, and by incident, it was also under the co-leadership of Ambassador Csaba Kőrösi. He was then helping the SDGs to go through the UN process, and then it was adopted. And now we are in the middle of implementation until 2030. And as Secretary General Guterres was saying, we are nowhere. Nowhere, because of the last 2 years, where crises hit us, and our system is not prone for crises. And we don't have a tool to get the attention and the unity to be able to make the difference. So what I'm trying to say is last year, our common agenda came out. And in the common agenda, the UN Secretary General was identifying certain steps forward and mechanisms for uniting and have dialogues for the future. Unless we are committed as citizens, as communities, as partners, things will not change. And how are we doing at European level? Oh, we are fine with the SDGs implementation, except 3 of them. One on partnership, which I was very much surprised because I thought that we are a community of partnerships. Second, water and sanitation. And the third one was land use. So if you really think about it, those are the areas where we are going to be having challenges for the future. Why? Because we are already in the 20 years of heat waves across the world, and each year is hotter than the one before. But we can say that this year is going to be unforgettable because of the drought. So it's not only the heat waves, now we have the droughts, and it's not only 1 month or 2 months, now it's going to be 4 months without rain, and in an area which is based on upstream, downstream countries, the disappearance of water for irrigation, for industrial use, for nuclear power station like in my country. It will be more and more challenging. So the issue is, how are we going to be addressing it? So one of them is the weather, the climate generated difficulties. How are we going to be having the water, the food supply? Because now we know that there is a huge disruption, country-wise, also globally, in the food supply system. And last but not least, we are going into a winter which is going to bring forward the energy challenges. And here I'm going back to the basis of our discussion. Political interests, more partnerships, stronger partnerships, united thoughts for the future, last but not least, to find sustainable solutions involving the citizens. Because if you don't involve the citizens, it is going to be a challenge. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm a very happy citizen of Budapest District 2, where we have a mayor. Through Facebook, he's informing us on everything, both challenges, opportunities, and once something comes up which needs to be done, he involves partners, he invites partners, from getting cheaper apples to the marketplace, to getting more flowers to the city, to thinking about what to do with legal issues, to think about how to collect community gifts for shops and for the poor people. So recycle goods, recycle ideas, recycle community engagement, and it brings back a very different spirit. And it happens now for 2 years. So what I'm saying, that you need global frameworks, you need partnerships, you need united activities, and in the Western Balkans, I have to say, you need it much more than ever. These united partnerships based on water basin, based on natural resources, based on different way of cooperation. Last but not least, I have to say that there is a feminine touch to all these ideas. Because when I started in the environmental movement, we were 2/3 women in the environmental movement. And I was able to see the same way as we were doing activities in the environmental movement. A little bit later, it happened also in the gender forces. And cross-fertilization on initiatives did help the processes very much. You don't have to go through the hard way. You can use tools and activities from each one. And I have to say, with Zita, she was on the political edge, and I was on the environmental edge. But she had a touch in environment, and I had a touch in politics. So you can see that some of these issues could be helping and working together. Last but not least, I had a long speech put together based on, but I don't want to read it and I don't want to get engaged. It was so nice and refreshing to listen to the first panel because you were very practical. And I think that this was one of the big exercises for us, that you need political thoughts and you need examples, and good examples for the future. So not last but not at least, I think that we should focus much more on partnerships. Last but not at least, I disagree with some of you who have said we don't need more education. I think we need continuous education, from kindergarten up until my age. So we need continuous education because otherwise there will be, a word I learned today, regression in evolution. So regression is going to be happening whether we like it or not. And don't forget, what did the Taliban do when they took over Afghanistan? They stopped women education immediately. So one of the dangers they saw, important dangers, is stop education of women and for future generations. So this is why I do believe that partnership, education at all levels is going to be needed, whether you build resilient communities and whether you build partnership across borders, global partnerships. I think it is going to be very important in a decade of difficulties, because we have to be saying that we will not be facing an easy way forward like it was before, but you know, we have to learn how to cook with what we have, and women are excellent in cooking of what we have. And I think that this is one of, I shouldn't be bringing this kind of out of
how
the...
to improvise. We know how
to improvise, yes. But me too. But my mother and my daughter are excellent. So I have to say that we are even out. Last but not at least, I have to say that that any kind of way forward for political and economical engagement is going to be very important. So we talk about political, we talk about partnerships, but we don't talk about economical freedom. And the quicker we are able to bring up healthy entrepreneurships, healthy small and medium-sized enterprises that are driven equally by men and women, the more importantly, the economical value as well as the social value is going to be much more stronger. So besides the political, economical is important. And last but not least, I look forward for the next 10 years, 20 years of KORČULA school. And it was a pleasure to participate.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you very much. As we were mentioning at the beginning, Raymond was saying that, and also Marta was mentioning, all the Sustainable Development Goals, but everything linked to sustainability is is written in a very nice political documents, but on the other hand, needs to be implemented from bottom up. So I'm really glad that we have today the possibility to discuss it on a level of city of Rijeka. The vice mayor of the city of Rijeka is with us. She is Sandra Krpan. She is sitting with us, and I would like to give her the floor and to give her the opportunity to tell us a little bit more how does she see it from her perspective, all the topics we were addressing now, and how in reality how it works. Sandra?
Hvala, dobar dan svima. Evo, meni je jako drago da sudjelujem u Korčulanskoj školi. Marta se zapitala kako se ona našla u tome da se bavi temom okoliša. A ja bi isto trebala odgovoriti na to pitanje kako sam se uopće našla u politici. Svi kažu da iza uspješnog muškarca stoji žena. A iza svake uspješne žene i žene u politici stoji njezina mama. Tako, to je odgovor na ovo pitanje zašto ja ne znam kuhati dobro, zato što to radi moja mama za mene, jer ja sam po cijeli dan u uredu, neki godinu dana sam sada zamjenica gradonačelnika grada Rijeke i moram priznati da prvi panel je za mene bio mnogo interesantniji i da o ovoj temi održivog razvoja, zaštite okoliša, isto tako sam se njome počela politički baviti zahvaljujući svojoj mami. Znači, kada dođete kod moje mame, morate apsolutno razvrstavati otpad i ne dao vam Bog da plastiku pomiješate sa papirom i tako dalje, da sve ide u jednu kantu za smeće. Ja moram priznati da ja po tom pitanju nisam tako savjesna, a ako želite se baviti politikom, morate biti autentični. Ali mislim da smo svi pozvani, koji smo ne samo ovdje u Korčulanskoj školi, nego koji se bavimo politikom, da brinemo jedni za druge i da brinemo za našu planetu. Znači, koliko god se nama činilo nešto malo da možemo učiniti, da je to možda nebitno, to je u stvari jako bitno. Tako da ja nakon ove Korčulanske škole, evo javno se obvezujem da ću reciklirati više, da mogu nešto učiniti, ali ono što kažem, trenutno sam razmišljala o tome, prvi put sad kad sam bila na godišnjem odmoru, susreli smo se s tim da imamo nestašicu vode, da moramo voditi računa o tome da ne možete se istuširati na plaži zato što treba čuvati naš resurs vodu. I onda sam počela razmišljati o tome, vidi što mogu ja učiniti kod kuće kada šamponiram kosu, koliko god da ovo zvuči banalno, mogu zatvoriti tada vodu i nešto učiniti za planet. I tako svako od nas nešto može. Zašto želim o tome govoriti? Ove posljednje godine, s čime mi svjedočimo? Sada svjedočimo velikim sušama u Europi, otkrivaju se sjajni lokaliteti zato što su nam preslužila historijski jezera, rijeke i tako dalje. Svi smo s time zadivljeni što u stvari se nalazi u koritima naših rijeka. Sad ćemo se susreti sa velikim poplavama vrlo brzo. Evo sada ja sam gledala u Ljubljani kako je letio krov sa zgrade i bila sam užasnuta da je tako nešto moguće. Mi takvim nevremenima u Europi nismo svjedočili, gdje imamo i ljudske žrtve, što je doista strašno. Poplave, suše, požari. Ja bih rekla da se mi kao ljudi u Europi nismo naučili time boriti, da ćemo o tome doista trebati razmišljati. Ono što zadnje 2 godine je jedino što bih ja rekla dobro donijela pandemija covida. Kada smo 2 tjedna svi bili zatvoreni u Hrvatskom našim stanovima, onda se priroda oporavila. Mislim da ste to vidjeli, ja živim u centru grada i mogla sam čuti ptice, to je stvarno doista bilo fascinantno, nisam ni znala da tako žive u mojoj blizini. To bih rekla da je ono što je dobro. Marta je također govorila da ćemo morati naučiti kako ćemo se hraniti s onim što imamo, što nam stoji na resursima. Prijeti nam glad. Ono što nam zbog rata u Ukrajini prijeti i hladnoća u Europi i doista mislim da možemo govoriti i o energetskom siromaštvu koje će sigurno zahvatiti građane Republike Hrvatske. I sada se vratim na vaše pitanje što mi to kao grad Rijeka činimo. Znači, mi kao grad Rijeka imamo jako dobar socijalni program, ali mislim da ćemo taj socijalni program u narednim mjesecima upravo morati pojačati, zato što ćemo se suočiti upravo zbog rata u Ukrajini, zbog velike nestašice plina, hrane i meni je doista žao i nekada se pitam o kakvom ja to državi živim i ovdje sad mi dozvolite samo jednu opasku na Hrvatsku. Znači, vlada Hrvatska se sada hvali da će uvesti 0 stopu na solarne panele. Pa gledajte, da biste vi stavili solarne panele, da ne kažem, to je super, naravno, kao ideja, morate imati nekih 10.000 eura, jeli? A sirotinja, nažalost, nema 10.000 eura da bi uložila u solarne panele. Ja se pitam kako će se ti ljudi na zimu grijati. To je ono što sad želim govoriti, da mi trebamo pojačati taj socijalni program, da ćemo morati ljudima plaćati račune za struju, za plin, jer oni to neće moći učiniti. Da će ljudi živjeti u jednoj prostoriji i grijati samo jednu prostoriju, a neće si više moći priuštiti luksuz da im je cijeli stan zagrijan. I znate, vrlo često smo znali hodati u kratkim rukavima po stanu i otvoriti prozore, zato što smo naučili se da je to nešto što se podrazumijeva da nam bude toplo. To doista je za mene teško. Mislim da nam slijedi teško razdoblje narednih nekoliko mjeseci u Republici Hrvatskoj i Europi, da smo o tome odgovorne vlade trebale voditi računa ranije, ali nažalost to nije tako. Kažem, mislim da nas čekaju teški dani i ja se nadam da ćemo se svi znati nositi sa tim i upravo odgovornost političara da o tome govore, a isto tako i mediji, oni su pozvani da izvještavaju o tome i da pružaju pravu informaciju. Evo, to nekoliko riječi uvodno, pa ako treba u raspravi se možemo...
Thank you very much, Sandra. So we did the first round of the panelists, and I would like to ask our great public on Zoom and here in person in KORČULA if they would like to ask something, or maybe if they have some thoughts they would like to share with us.
Ja se izvinjavam ako sam dosadna. Hvala vam na vašem ovom uvodnom izlaganju i ako mogu da se nastavim, a voljela bi i vaš komentar. Mislim da Marta je rekla jednu ključnu stvar, a to je da sva prava koje imamo podrazumevaju i određene obaveze. I to, ako posmatramo u širem kontekstu, mi smo podrazumevali da imamo sva prava na ovu planetu, a zaboravili smo te neke obaveze koje imamo prema njoj. To se tiče i demokratije, to se tiče i socijalnih prava, to se tiče i odnosa prema okolišu i prema ovim klimatskim promjenama koje nam se dešavaju. Ono što jeste problem nama globalno, čak ne samo u regionu ili samo u Srbiji, to je što mi smo sada došli do onog trenutka kad moramo da se promenimo sutra, odnosno juče. A društvo generalno ne može to da isprati tu brzinu. Nekako propustili smo, imamo te neke ispuštene korake kada smo mogli polako da pripremamo građane na određene promjene. Mislim da smo taj period izgubili. Mislim da taj period više nemamo, jer su te promjene klimatski stigle. Evo, vidimo da Dunav je kod Novog Sada, onako, deca se igraju u plićaku, do sredine puta može da se prepešači. To sve će naravno imati posljedice i u trgovini, i u transportu, i u grejanju, jer znam da je neki ugalj trebao da stigne recimo u Srbiju, koji ne može sada da stigne jer Dunav nije plovan. Znači, posljedice su se već desile. Na koji način mi sada možemo da se suprotstavimo onoj jednoj sintagmi koja važi u svim društvima, a to je ono, ali mi smo do sada uvek tako. Jer sada više došao je taj trenutak kada više ne može tako. Hvala.
Evo, ja bih samo kratko. Marta je govorila o važnosti edukacije. Mi u gradu Rijeci imamo građanski odgoj i obrazovanje, na to smo jako ponosni, mislimo da je to jako dobar program. I upravo taj program uči djecu jednom dijelu i o klimatskim promjenama i o ekologiji. Znači, rekla bih da mladi ljudi puno više razumiju nego mi odrasli. Mi ćemo se morati prilagoditi, oni su puno otporniji, ono što se kaže, i njima ništa nije teško i doista oni smatraju da mogu to učiniti. Tako su tamo konkretne nekakve nastavne jedinice, čuva svoj planet, odvajaj otpad i tako dalje, što ja mogu učiniti kao aktivni građanin. Jednostavno mislim da ćemo se morati svi prilagoditi vrlo brzo, ovo što ste vi rekli, na novonastalu situaciju, a da ključna riječ doista jest edukacija i da moramo kao političari vrlo jasne poruke slati građanima. Znači, solarni paneli, mi smo sa njima zakasnili kada vlada unosi nultu stopu na solarne panele. Puno bi bolje bilo da razmišljamo o tome da spriječimo povećanje cijene energenata. Znači i doista u Hrvatskoj meni neprihvatljivo, znači kako ljudi već nisu izašli na ulice ako imate, ne znam, nekakav račun 30.000 kuna, a sad ga plaćate 120.000 kuna. Znači do kada će to ići, do kada ćemo mi to svi trpjeti, to doista odgovor na to pitanje ne znam. Valjda možemo kao ljudi jako puno trpjeti.
You know, it's quite interesting that we have been, you talk about energy, we have been talking for decades now that the best energy is that you don't use. So by insulation, by getting energy efficient equipment, by looking at your transport system, your building system, and you reduce it substantially. That will reduce your energy dependence, especially on fuels that are carbon fuels. And this is one of the things that I'm a little bit afraid of. Because of our higher energy prices, people will turn back to traditional energy sources like wood, like lignite, not even coal, but lignite. And those will have important, not only problems on the environment, but also health. It will have, because if you look into what are, according to the global risk report of the World Economical Forum, climate action failure, number 1, extreme weather, number 3 is biodiversity, social cohesion erosion, livelihood crises, number 6, infectious diseases, human-made disasters. And if you look into it, these are all issues that we have been trying to address for a long, long time. We did not succeed. But I would like to give you also a positive message. And the positive message, if the global community unites, then you can phase out pollutants. One of them was phasing out lead from petroleum. UNEP had the Clean Fuel Initiative, and for a long time we were progressing, except in the last phases 5 countries. One of them was Serbia, the other one was Bosnia-Herzegovina, and the other 3 were from Asia. And we were making, with my organization, studies and helping to understand mothers that if you live in an inner city, because of the leaded fuel, you will have a problem in your children's health. And by making this aware, also for the policemen, that if you stand on the road, you will have higher lead concentration, and it will lead to problems in your health, especially in your mental development. Then the citizen groups started to pressure. And this is how all the countries agreed, and it's phased out. So we don't have any more leaded petrol. It is a UN system. It went through some of the governments for economical reasons, because the car industry, because of the petrol industry, but economically it was much better for them once they made the change. But you needed to educate the decision makers. So this is the example of how it happened, and united globally, phasing out, economical discussions, trainings, pressure groups, and health-related issues all helped this step. But there are many others when we talk about climate change, where all the actors can unite on issues and use the best available resources, sources, information, and take the next step forward. But if the worst case is inaction, non-action, because that's the most expensive.
Thank you, Marta. You really open up A really good question. If I want to, let's say, or try to be a little bit more optimistic, I am in a way for this kind of actions. I think the younger generations are really much more involved in this climate crisis, environmental crisis, and I believe that they could be a very good partner for the women's organizations and the women groups all around the world in fighting these topics, because I think they're a generation of, they grew up in the last 20 years of listening about the climate changes. We did as well, but we didn't really listen. We thought this would happen like in the next 3-4 generations. You know, nobody believed that everything is going to come so quick, that we are going to be the ones to adapt to drought, to 4 months without rain. I come from a region we had reductions of water for a couple of weeks now in August, and there were wildfires all around. We never had that, or we did the last time when I was a little girl, like 40 years ago. You know, like we were suddenly put in front of you had to choose between watering the tomatoes or you drinking water. You know, like I couldn't believe that this will happen in my lifetime, because I thought this is going to happen in the next 200 years. But everything is happening quickly. The world is changing, and I think this is one of the ideas that we can take from KORČULA School for the next generations, is try to unite with the younger generations that are not involved in politics, because they don't see this topic as a political topic. They look at it more as concrete actions. They want to do very concrete things, but they don't want to have all this politics behind. And our women's forums, our women's groups, I think could be united and help them and lead them, or not even lead, but to be an equal partner in this kind of questions. For example, in Slovenia, this is happening. We have a very active group of citizens or group of younger people that united in one moment about the question of water. So to put water in the right of water in the constitution or not. So we had a referendum. Historically, non-referendums are going through. Last year this happened. And it had a huge influence, political influence on the elections that happened like 6 months later. So that's what would be my wish, or my wish to take from this panel, maybe to try to find on a local level and national level all these potential partners. I just wanted to ask Raimund if he wants to intervene in this panel.
Well, in terms of conclusion from my side, I wish to draw your attention to the major opportunities created by societal innovations. And this is what, for example, we will be discussing under the leadership of Mr. Kerösi, when it comes, for example, to developing new digital tools to redistribute values so that we create the conditions of a more just transition, providing to the poor in the value chains, like the farmers, the fishermen, the forest managers, and so on, funds which could be so redistributed via what is called the token economy. So there are opportunities of that side which were unthinkable 10 years ago. So despite all the problems, despite the fact that in fact, yes, indeed, we are facing a regression of human rights for obvious reasons, we need now to explore what we can do in terms of alliances, like the one you have just been describing, using new tools like the one we will be discussing under the leadership of Mr. Kerösi. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Raimund. So I will try to finish this panel. If there are not with YouTube, I just want to ask if there is someone from the audience that would like to intervene. Then I give the floor to Marta, maybe for your last conclusion remark.
It's not really conclusion. One of the things that we forgot, again, to remember the past, rain harvesting. Our mayor in District 2 have put up a sign to say that you can apply for big buckets to collect rain, to water your garden.
For the public buildings?
For the citizens. For anybody can apply for it, free of charge, you can get it, and you can collect rain, and you can water your garden. Because these are low practical things that you have to think about, because our infrastructure of present is not the infrastructure for the future. It's not built for flash floods. So once a big rain comes, you are washed away. Once a fire comes, you burned away. So when electricity shortage comes, you don't know what to do in a panel home or a concrete building. What do you do? So these are dilemmas of today that we have to think about with innovation, with rethinking, and these are the working groups at community level that can help your citizens and your future voters. And yes, the kids are much more sensible in that respect. And I think that those are going to be very importantly present in developing a much better future. And the women groups are there. So why not act together?
Thank you, Marta.
Evo, samo kratko za kraj. Što možemo učiniti? Recikliraj, posadi stablo, ponovo iskoristi. Mi u Rijeci imamo jedan jako zgodno mjesto, zove se Riperaj. Kad vam se nešto potrga, onda to ne bacite u smeće, dođete tamo i možete to popraviti i ponovo upotrijebiti. Mislim da je to divna jedna stvar. I dolaze ne samo djeca, nego i građani i mislim da je to jedna poruka koju iz Korčule želimo poslati, a mislim da u danima i godinama koji slijede, pa i mjesecima, bit će izuzetno važna riječ solidarnost, da obratimo pažnju jedni na druge, da su pored nas neki ljudi u potrebi, da im pomognemo onoliko koliko možemo i onako kako mi u SDP-u to jako dobro znamo. Evo, hvala.
Hvala, thank you very much.